What are you doing?
Well, for my machine learning project, I need labeled dataset. So I purchased this so I can just, use this to label my data. You must be kidding me, right? Yeah, I'm kidding. But honestly, labeling for some specific machine learning projects, namely computer vision and NLP, is pretty challenging and time consuming. I have no clue how to coordinate, manage, and track the labeling progress across all my team members. There should be a way to accelerate this process, right? There is. Why don't you use labeling feature in Azure Machine Learning? It can help you a lot with the pain points you just mentioned. Could you please show me how to do it? Sure, then let's go! Hello everyone, this is MG, hoping you are enjoying your life. So in this video, we're gonna talk about how we can have some further help in labeling process for machine learning. As you might know, some specific type of machine learning use cases, they need labeled data. For example, for computer vision, if you wanna do an object detection, you have to label some images to show your model that what specific objects you would like to get trained and predicted or detected. So imagine that when you have considerable amounts of data, that labeling process will be a team effort. So there should be a way that you can manage this labeling process, track it, sort of coordinate it across team members, and even ask some potential other companies to support you for labeling. So for this video, I'm gonna show you a feature in Azure Machine Learning called labeling that can support all the points that I just mentioned. And of course, it will give you an assistant, which is a machine learning based assistant that will observe your labeling process, get trained, and will ready to support you with some suggestions for labeling. So you have a machine learning model that is assisting you with the labeling progress, which can certainly accelerate your labeling progress. Enough talking. Let's dive in and I will show you how you can do it within Azure Machine Learning. Let's check it out. Before we start, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so you will get notified for the next video. Thank you. Alright, this is gonna be a pretty quick and also easy to follow video that we're gonna talk about data labeling, mainly for computer vision and NLP in Azure Machine Learning, and we can check that out. What are the specific capabilities that can accelerate our data labeling process? So as soon as you log into your Azure ML workspace, on the left side you can see there's an icon here called data labeling. So you can click on it, and here you can start adding your data labeling projects for different machine learning projects or use cases. Here I have already tried a couple of them, so that's why you see I have 3 projects with different names here. You might see nothing. This is the first time you're going to create your data labeling project. So let's go through the flow of how you can create a data labeling project. So just click on add, and here you can give it a name. Here I just want to create another test, and you can see for the media type, as of now you can choose image or text. And for image based machine learning use cases, you can do image classification. Let's say with a given image we're going to predict whether that's a cat or dog, pretty simple example. Or you would like to do multi-label classification, for example, for the given image, predict multiple labels instead of just saying this is a cat or a dog. We can have some additional other labels that we can predict or classify here. If you want to do object identification, with the given image you are looking for detecting an object there, so you can start labeling some objects with the given images. And also image segmentations, you can create polygon and sort of draw these lines around your object to sort of label them, and later on you can do this segmentation of the given image with your trained machine learning model. Also, a recent one, which is text, that has been added as well. If you want to do a classification for text, let's say predicting the topic of the given text as a label, or if you want to do multi-label classification, similar to multi-label image classification. The text name entity recognition, let's say you are going to train a model that can detect the entity of different healthcare entities from the given doctor prescription, right? For example, you want to detect the name of different drugs, their dosage or name of disease, the symptoms. So these are different entities that you're going to recognize with the given text, and you need certainly label data to train that model to do so. And you can here use this to label your data set. So as an example, we will start to label data set with one of these examples of image and text, but the flow and the way that we label the data would be certainly the same. Just the way that you are defining your labels would be different based on the use case type that you're dealing with here. Let's say we're going to do an object identification here. So I'll select that. This is an image-based use case. So I'll click on next. Here, as I mentioned, you can use some third-party vendor companies from Azure Marketplace to help you with labeling. And please be cautious that dealing with that company from Azure Marketplace, make a contract and agreement is something separate. You have to follow that as well. Check out the expertise of that company, whether they're qualified for this data labeling project that you're doing. Check out their quality scope, pricing. And then if I enable this, you can see that list of vendors from Azure Marketplace that you can choose them and move on. So this is definitely optional, but here let's do the labeling together. So I turned it off, click on next, and here your data should be accessible to Azure ML, right? So if you have registered an Azure Machine Learning data set here, which is an image-based data set, it will show up here. So I registered these before recording this video. But the way you can do so, if it's not there, you can just simply click on create, give it a name, let's say test 1 2 3, give the description. That's going to be a file, of course. That's not a tabular data because we are doing with image use case. That's why the choice of a type is grayed out and the file type is fixed. I click on next. You can specify that, well, my data is coming from Azure storage. That can be from Azure Data Lake, Azure Blob, or from local machine. For this demo, I actually downloaded X-ray images for detecting the spine or spinal cord from the given X-ray image. So I had to download that calculator to my local machine and upload it from there. So if I click on from local files, click on next, it will ask me that, okay, where you want to put your data after uploading it to Azure ML or the store backed by Azure ML. So here I want to choose the default blob storage that comes with Azure ML. So as soon as I upload those images, they will go there and I will create a data set out of it. I click on next, and here's the upload path given for me. If I click on upload, it will start uploading the images with the given path that I have on my local machine. And there you go. You can see that I have some sample data set from COVID-19 use cases. I have the X-ray images of normal chest versus some others affected by COVID-19. We are not doing classification here, so I'm just making these images as a data set to do an object detection, sort of detecting the spinal cord out of this data set, which is not labeled. So I want to label it here. So I already uploaded all, so I'm not going to do it again. As soon as I click on next, you will see that the data set will be created and will be shown here. We chose the name test, but here, for example, I chose X-ray 1 2 3 or whatever. So let's say I want to go with the latest data set that I have registered, and this is the data set that I want to start sort of labeling, right? You can see that all the images that I had on my local machine as a source example has been uploaded here. If I click on any of them, on the right side there's a nice feature that you can see a quick preview of the images that you're downloading. So that's the right data set. Now it is accessible by Azure ML, so I'm going to click on next and sort of start a labeling process. There's one thing here that is asking me, which is optional, that is called incremental refresh. That's a very nice feature. So now these images that I have and I upload in Blob, maybe you're incrementally uploading more and more and more images as long as you have more patients coming in and you're gathering more X-ray images for this use case as an example. So that means more data set coming in and you need to label more and more data. So with enabling this incremental refresh, at the specific intervals, Azure ML gonna check if there's a new data coming in. It will assign new tasks and let your labelers know that, well, there are new data sets coming in, so more data need to be labeled. For this demo, I'm not going to enable that, but just letting you know that this is an optional feature, which is nice, and you have the capability of enabling this. Now, what is the label? What is the object you're gonna create? I can have multiple objects to get detected, multiple labels. Right here, I just want to detect a spinal cord, so let's call it spine or SP as an example. I can have nested labels as well. For example, if I'm detecting a specific animal in the given image, I can type here animal on the top, and the type of the animal can be the nested or hierarchy of that label. Let's say here's animal, here is cat, then the next one is dog or bird, whatever. So here, just one sort of object I'm detecting, which is a spinal cord, and that's it. And of course, we can change the color of the label with the given sort of name, which is an optional thing as well, to make sure you can quickly distinguish different labels you're detecting over the same image with the given color. Clicking on next. Now this is important. This helps you a lot to coordinate the labeling process across all team members. You can define some task instructions of how you want to label these images. For example, here's an example that I labeled X-ray image for detecting spinal cord. So I can use this as an example and attach it here to say that, hey, for example, hey, this is a sample that how you going to label this data set, right? Sorry, I'm just typing pretty fast. And if you have more detailed task instruction and you're pushing it somewhere, just put the URL, so any labeler gonna come check out that URL and read all the instruction, how we need to label, what labels are there, making sure that you're synchronizing labeling across all team members and you're not biased to a specific person in the way that you're labeling. It's very important to make sure the way that you're labeling by different people are all the same and it won't affect your training process. And you can even, for example, here I'm attaching a sample, so you can just click on this icon on the downloads. This is the one that I just showed you, right? So I'm using it as an example. Clicking on next. This is a very nice feature, ML assistant labeling. As soon as you start labeling, after labeling several pictures, Azure ML, if you enable this feature on backend, will trigger a training process for you. So on backend, a machine learning model will start to learn the way that you're labeling this data. For example, here detecting a spinal cord. After several images, you will see that there's a model training process triggered over a GPU cluster, and after getting enough distance to the threshold of the performance of the model, you will see that some of the images will be pre-labeled automatically by that ML assistant labeling. So you no longer need to label from scratch. You can see the labeled images by that sort of pre-trained model, and you can accept that labeling or adjust it and move on for the next images. And you will see that these models will get more and more accurate as long as you're labeling more and more data. So this model is seeing more and more examples of how you're labeling. So you will have a more powerful ML assistant labeling in the long way that you're going through a labeling process. So here I'm enabling this, and it is asking me you can use a default compute cluster. It's going to be a GPU machine. If it's not there, you're going to create it. If not, you can customize the compute that you're going to train. So here I just want to use the default one, and of course there's a pricing associated with the compute that is getting your ML assistant labeling trained. So be cautious on that as well. That's it. I click on creating project. And you will see test 5, which is a new project we just created, is getting initialized. After just several seconds, you should see that. There you go. So I have 1,337 images and none of them is labeled. Let's check that out. So I should wait a little bit. There you go. You can nicely see the progress of the labeling. What is the distribution of different labels you have labeled, which we haven't done anything yet. That's why it's empty here. How many labelers we have. If it's MG, okay, how many of the images is labeled by MG? It's going to show here as a chart. And you can see that the ML assistant is not trained yet, because I haven't shown any example to this model that how I'm labeling, but you will see after labeling several images, the training gonna be started and there's a model gonna get inferenced, so it can be used for pre-labeling, and you will see the pre-labeling gonna be started here. Well, the question is, after how many labeled images my ML assistant will start helping me with labeling? Well, that depends on the use case. It depends on how hard your task is. Sometimes if it's pretty straightforward, you will see that just after quick several images that you're labeling, you'll see that the ML assistant will be ready for you. On the back end, this ML assistant is getting trained by transfer learning. So there's a base model gonna get tuned with your labeled data. So that's why what you're labeling here, if it's close to what that base model in transfer learning has learned, then your ML assistant will be wake up faster and get ready faster. If not, you might have to label more and more data to have that ML assistant working. Now you can have more information about the data, so you can review the labels. We haven't labeled anything yet, but you'll know that the label HTML code has been created. List of labels is going to be shown here. On the details side, you can see again the dataset type, incremental refresh is enabled. You can export the labeled data. I'm going to talk about that after. The label category, you can see the only label that you're detecting the object is HTML code. You can see the instruction. This is, remember, what I created so the team members can see how they can label data. ML assistant is enabled. There you go. You will see that there's a training and inferencing compute going to get created to create this ML assistant labeling. Let me show you actually. If I click on computes, I went to my compute cluster and I saw that this one, which is a GPU machine, got created, not by me, because I enabled ML assistant labeling. It got created as we chose it, and some sort of general settings as well. Now let's just start labeling some data. This is the nice feature that you're looking for. Let me minimize this a little bit. There you go. So first it is showing me the instruction. That was the sample image that I uploaded. You can just ignore it. That can be URL, that can be any description here, but here's the main task that we need to do. So you can see a variety of different options that how you want to draw your region of interest. Here for me is going to be HTML code. You can even further do tagging. You can do changing the brightness, the contrast of the image. That's going to help you to detect or label the object you're looking for better. For here, I don't need this. I know the HTML code is here, so I can just label it. And you can check out some more capabilities here, zoom in and zoom out, so I'm going to skip this. Here's an example. You will see that the only label that I have is HTML code. I'm gonna draw the region of interest, and you can see the color that I chose for HTML code gonna be here. If I have another label, let's say detecting chest as an example, you will see that there is a new label called chest under this with, let's say, color red, so I can also create that red region of interest as well. That's it. I click on submit. It will show me the next image, so I'll do the same. Click on submit. So you will see that I'm easily labeling the data and detecting the region of interest that I need, and I can move on. So now I think I labeled 3 or 4 images. If I go back to the labeling project that I created, it should show me that yes, I have completed 5 by me, which is the admin. So admin has labeled 5, and out of all these data sets that need to get labeled, and you'll see that the training experiment of my ML assistant is not triggered yet because I haven't labeled enough data to let the machine learning model get trained for ML assistant labeling. And it's telling me that, oh, label 40 more images to let us start training a machine learning model for you that can label the data set for you in a pre-labeled manner. I think I already created a labeling project that, yes, this one that I labeled almost 55 images. So I'm going to show you how it's going to look like when that ML assistant start getting trained. So you can see 55 of them has been labeled, and there you go. There's a label training process. ML assistant labeling training has been initiated. It's completed. If I click on it, I saw that on backend Azure ML labeling,
start training a computer vision model that can do the labeling for me with a specific sort of performance here. And if I move on, if I go back to the labeling, this is not just one-time training. Again, when you label more, you'll see that your ML assistant get trained again and again and again, and finally your inferencing gonna be done, which is not started for me, so I cannot use it as of now. But this is the sort of the flow you will see. So I had another, so I'm gonna show you, okay, what's gonna happen when you finish all this labeling. So what? How can I use it in Azure ML? How can I use this labeled data set to, let's say, create an object detection model, maybe using AutoML? So automatically I'm gonna train a machine learning model for an object detection of a spinal cord using the labeled data that I use Azure ML labeling for label them. So I already created another data labeling project with less pictures, so I could finish it. So 13 images, and I labeled all of them, so I can show you. 13 out of 30 is completed, done. There's nothing left, so I can export this labeled data set. You click on export. Because we are dealing with images, the export format is Coco file, but for, let's say, NLP tasks, you will see different formats. Here I want to register this labeled data as an Azure ML data set because I want to use AutoML in Azure ML to train a machine learning model using this labeled data. So I can click on Azure ML data set. You can also include labeler details when you register this. And that's it. I click on submit. I already exported this as an Azure ML data set. That's why if I go to data, you can see that the test one that I created and I labeled actually is registered as an Azure ML dataset. If I click on explore, there you go. You'll see that this is 13 images that I labeled and they're registered in Azure ML, and you can nicely see the region of interest that I sort of draw to detect the spinal cord for all these images. Now this dataset has been registered and ready to be used for different ML tasks in Azure ML. I can, let's say, use AutoML for training and computer vision. To just quickly show you, I have already created a separate video on how you use AutoML for computer vision. If you haven't checked that out, I'll put the link of that video to the top right side of the screen here. But just quickly show you how you can use this labeled data. You go and create a new AutoML job. You click on create. Sorry, the data set that we have registered, the labeled data set, is already here. It will show me a preview of that data. Yes, that's the data I'm going to use for training a model. I click on next. It automatically realizes that, oh, that's a computer vision task and it is object detection. Yes, that's a correct detection. What is the column that you're going to predict? Of course, that's the label that I'm going to predict. The compute type, so on and so forth. Let's say I want to do a cluster with that GPU cluster that is created. Clicking on next, you can even detect the base image, the base model for training your object detection out of these choices you have available as of now. I click on next. The validation type, let's say train test split, 10% for validation, no test data for now. And as soon as I click finish, it will start training a machine learning model for object detection using the labeled dataset that I created on data labeling. So that's all. Just wanted to show you this capability in a high level and also show you the flow of how you can create a labeling project, how you can have ML assistant, how you can do this for object detection, sort of use the UI for labeling the region of interest, how you export the labeled data, and here as an example using AutoML for this labeled dataset. And that's all.
I always mention you, my friends, that dream big, but dreams without goals are just dreams, and they ultimately fuel disappointment. On the road to achieve your dreams, you must apply discipline and, more importantly, consistency. Because without commitment, you never start, and without discipline, you never finish. Wishing you wonderful moments, my friends. Take care, and we'll see you shortly in the next video.